Okay, there's this now from the New York Post. That newspaper is now claiming that President Biden may have had a much larger role in Hunter's business dealings than he's been letting on. The paper reporting this. One of Hunter's former business associates referred to Joe Biden as, quote, the big guy in a text message. That message allegedly sent the same day the Post broke the news of Hunter's infamous laptop. Miranda Devine, New York Post columnist, Fox News contributor, has got a brand new op-ed in the paper, and she's with me now. Miranda, good morning to you. I think the fellow's name is James Gilliar. I'm not sure exactly who he is, but I know you do. Here is the text. If they lose, honestly, I don't think that the big guy really cares about that because he'll be too busy focusing on all the other stuff he is doing. What's this about, Miranda?
Hi, Bill. James Gilliar is a former business partner of Hunter Biden. He has links to British intelligence, and this communication was on the very day that the New York Post first broke our Hunter Biden laptop stories, and there was panic going on among Hunter's associates, and this was one of those conversations. And Gilliar is just reassuring people that, look, don't worry, if Joe Biden wins, we won't have a problem. If Joe Biden loses, we won't have a problem. They're talking about will the Biden campaign, will Joe or Hunter throw us under the bus? And Gilliar is saying, no, we're fine. The big guy, he refers to Joe Biden. And the reason that's significant is because there are other communications on the laptop about the big guy who had an involvement in Hunter Biden's influence peddling operation overseas when Joe Biden was vice president. And in one case, he was going to, the big guy, get 10% of a big Chinese deal. And of course, Joe Biden has consistently denied that he knows anything about Hunter's business dealings overseas. He said it during the campaign, and the White House has, consistently pushed that line since. And yet the evidence is overwhelming that he was aware of and perhaps involved in and perhaps profited from these business deals.
Okay, Miranda, I am told by those who have access to this laptop material that it's dense, and you have to plow through a lot of material. And it takes, we're talking weeks, maybe months, maybe more than that. But this name, the big guy, the phrase, I was always curious how many times it's come up. It came up with Tony Bobulinski in the interview in October of 2020 with Tucker Carlson. This way, just roll the clip here.
On May 13, 2017, I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden, and Jim for Jim Biden. In fact, Hunter often referred to his father as the big guy or my chairman.
Yeah, that was during the press conference when he made his big announcement. Tucker talked to him after that. How many times did the big guy come up in this computer?
Look, it's at least half a dozen. In other times, there was one Serbian associate who called him the big man. Joe Biden is sort of an undercurrent in everything. And when you listen to Tony Bobulinski, he says that Hunter often conferred with his father, my chairman or the big guy, on important issues when it came to divvying up the money, dividing up the money that was coming in, particularly from the Chinese. So there's a lot there, but I think the most one of the most sinister developments in the last few days has been the whistleblowers that have come forward to Republican congressional investigators. One of them gave us that big guy communication I just told you about, but also there are whistleblowers from the FBI who are outlining a real operation inside the FBI to suppress this information. We know the FBI had the laptop from December 2019, did nothing with it, and there was also other information that they had, including all of Tony Bobulinski's material that they had in October 2020. And there was just this effort to suppress and also smear all this information as Russian disinformation, to dismiss it so that it didn't damage Joe Biden within the FBI. And that really is scary, and it has pushed Bill Barr finally to say that there should be a special counsel looking into this Biden family influence peddling operation, that it's too big now just to leave it with the Delaware U.S. Attorney and grand jury there.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, Joe Biden has consistently denied this. I thought an interesting report the other day is that Hunter reached out to the official photographer for the vice president when he was vice president in 2014 and asked to have the a picture of the group who met in the vice president's office emailed to him. That's something else. That's comment.
Yeah. Well, look, there are more than a dozen times recorded on the laptop where Joe Biden met with Hunter's overseas business partners, whether they were from Mexico, Colombia, China, Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan. Joe Biden invited them to his home at the vice presidential residence in Washington. He went to dinner at Cafe Milano in Georgetown in April 2015 with Hunter's business partners from 3 countries, and he met them in Beijing. He took Hunter famously in 2013 to Beijing to meet the senior people at the CCP at that time. He was involved, obviously, and I think it's just the White House has run out of time to explain it.
Well, Miranda Devine, thank you, New York Post. Check out her column in the paper today. Thank you. Nice to see you, Miranda. We'll talk again very soon.
Thanks, Bill.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.